Thanks for staying with us. So the World Health has warned that some diseases may soon become untreatable due to lack of antibiotics. According to reports, infectious diseases such as tuberculosis, diarrhea, human immunodeficiency virus, that's HIV, measles, amongst others, may soon become untreatable. Joining us on the show is a public health expert, Dr. Tuyi Mebawondu. Welcome to the show. Into my I always think that you're coming to talk about Lassa fever, so that's why I thought it was Lassa fever for a second, but I'm like, oh, it's not Lassa fever. But it's good to have you on the show, Doctor.
Thank you.
You can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can also tweet to us at TVC, and please hashtag TVC so we can read your tweets. Okay, so I think you've discussed this with us before, the issues of antibiotics being unable to treat lots of diseases. And I think you warned us also in the past that we should try to desist from using too much antibiotics so early in life. Could you, what are the fears we should look out for if we get to a situation whereby all the antibiotics available can't treat our diseases?
We don't want to imagine that situation. Antibiotic resistance or antimicrobial resistance is a huge issue. It's a global crisis. It's a threat to national security and even to existence of humanity. Now, it was wonderful that around 1924, when penicillin was discovered, and during the World War II, it was used to save a lot of life. But by 2 years, we had resistance. And since then, there has been one resistance after the other, okay? In such a way now that we're gradually getting to a point where if you need to use antibiotics now, you're not sure it's going to work. You see somebody who says is having typhoid. Somebody is having malaria. All these are product of resistance to antibiotics. And it's huge. A conservative estimate in an organized society puts the cost of antibiotic resistance at more than $1 trillion. And you can imagine in our own part of the world where we are now, you enter a bus, you see a woman hawking all sorts of antibiotics. By the roadside, you see men
drinking,
hawking antibiotics. A lady will say, okay, you know what, I need to take antibiotics. Or a man will say, oh, let me take antibiotics, my body feels somehow.
It's for boy.
Because it is cheap, in abundance, and common. And there's a high demand for the antibiotics. That is one key issue that is driving this antibiotic. And then the other thing is that it's over-prescribed. At every point in time, typhoid and malaria. Oh, I have this, I must use antibiotics. In fact, it's incorporated into so many things. Look at our food production now. If you want to do it in the poultry, a lot of antibiotics is added to the feed.
Yes.
And as such, part of the antibiotic or some part of it gets into us. And these are resistant strains because there's no way you're going to do it. When the animal is defecating, it passes some of those germs to the soil, it passes to vegetation, it gets to you, and then lo and behold, you are wondering. You don't know that the chicken you are eating, you're also eating antibiotics with it. So this discussion is very important, and people should, from now, take a cue that antibiotics are not just swallowed. It must be needed. It must be rationally used. You must complete your dose if you have to use it, and you must be careful, even if you have to eat food, because what you are going to do, is a kind of producing different strains of germs that are resistant to antibiotics.
So recently I was talking with the doctor, and he said this is very important because Nigerians, we have a habit of having default malaria. Everybody that is hot is malaria. You just go and buy it off the counter and you're fine. So he said, recently we have to start to do blood tests. I took my 2 kids, we were running the temperature for test, and they found that they didn't have malaria. I would have bought it off the counter to give them because they were running temperature. But when they did the test, they found they then prescribed a kind of antibiotics for them, saying that it's not every type, that they're just children. I was, no, you gotta be strong, they are coughing, and the man said, whether they'll be fine, it might just be dust. So how do you get a patient now, a Nigerian patient that has default malaria, to understand that you can just go home and sleep with 2 kids running a temperature and they'll be fine?
Again, one of the key things we need to do is to step up, education. Education must come from individual, it must come from the community. And we must be able to, greatly drive this discussion Okay, it's nice that we're discussing that we must drive it further and take it to the grassroots as much as possible. Now, let's appreciate the fact that those molecules we're having that we're enjoying, there are just few molecules left that we can use. Let us appreciate that. Now, malaria you've mentioned, we have the artemisinin combination therapy, which you call ACT. And right now, we're already having resistance to ACT. So where do we go after having resistance, if you have resistance to ACT? So there must be a clear-cut dialogue, a clear-cut pathway to understand that if I check for malaria parasite, it's not positive, what test could it be? Do I need rest? Even if I have to use antibiotics, what are the rational prescriptions I have to take, and how long do I have to take it? How do I now cross-check and be sure that I am really having the need for these antibiotics? Now, you know, about 18 leading pharmaceutical companies that are actually into antibiotics, 15 of them left because it's not profitable for them again. So now, if it's not profitable, what it means is that you are left with very small number of antibiotics to play with.
There's no working.
Now, there are clear-cut diseases now that are causing problem. Tuberculosis, like WHO, is one. We're having multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. 600,000 people killing, killing as much as 240,000 out of them.
Wow.
The germ is resistant to all the antibiotics. It's even worse than even the HIV service is bringing out its own resistance.
Wow.
There's only one drug now that can cure gonorrhea.
Only one drug?
Only one drug. Even that one is overused.
Wow.
I'm not going to mention the drug. That's the only major prescribed drug.
And very soon now might actually also grow resistance.
Yes.
Now, syphilis, nobody's talking about it again, but it's all over the place. Okay? Typhoid. You know, every time in Nigeria, typhoid and malaria.
Go together.
Then, no, how can it go together? Again,
we feel.
The World Health Organization says that one of their fears we read yesterday is that we need to invest more in creating more antibiotics. It seems that, as you've just mentioned, a lot of them we've grown resistant and we need new ones. And I keep wondering, how many antibiotics have come out from Nigeria? Is there anyone that has been locally produced here or has been collaborated by, you know? Have we done anything? And what do you think about our organic?
Do we have some antibiotics within the
locally Nigerian?
The local one you have is generics. The generics means that, okay, somebody worked and developed the molecule, usually those big companies. Okay. When they develop the molecules, then at a point in time there's expiration of their patency, and then it now becomes generic. So, you know, as usual, generic will not be as thorough as the first one.
Right.
So what you see in Nigeria are the generics. Most of those generics they sell in Nigeria are actually coming from China and India because it's very, very cheap. Okay, some of them that have company here, they try to produce the generic. Still, the basic powder had to be imported from there, and then you now come and compound and press into tablets, as the case may be. So for us, I'm not even sure whether we have a national policy on the usage of antibiotics. We don't have that. Not to talk of a state policy or talk of local policy. Now, even the hospitals, because again, when we come to what we can do, we'll look at that again. Even the hospitals, as it were, there should be a clear-cut policy. When you are monitoring hospitals, you should be able to understand that guys, we don't have too many molecules to play with.
Yes.
Okay.
I've observed also, I know where you like to come, because as a parent, your kids get ill, you take them to hospital, and the first thing they're giving you antibiotics. In fact, in my house, I have loads and loads of antibiotics. I don't even use it. I don't even use it. I didn't even open it at all. Because once I complete the malaria drugs, I'm home, I make sure he eats well, sleep well, and I don't end up using the antibiotics, and they're fine. So I try really hard never to use the antibiotics they give me in the hospitals. But is it the right thing to do? I'll come to it. But let me
Yeah. So the problem now that the World Health Organization has discovered is the fact that we now have mutant bacteria that is resisting all the known antibiotics. I think in the UK they discovered about 12 diseases. New diseases already that they don't have antibiotics for, though they are developing about 60 antibiotics, which is going to take a long time before you can actually start using it. But my worry now, the one way concern me now, they say, in the scheme of things, Nigeria is not even producing any antibiotics. We don't produce any form of drugs here. So the people who have been supplying us drugs are telling us that they don't know what to do at the moment because they don't have what will sustain us. When it now comes down, when these diseases come here, how do we survive when we do not have one hope? Do we go back to our traditional medicine to help our case? Yeah. Because the Oyibo people supplying us are telling us, come, we're in trouble right now. So what do we do?
Again, it appears hopeless, but you've raised a fundamental issue. And of course, this platform is also discussing such issue now. Yeah. First of all, we have to keep signaling. We have to keep talking. We have to keep looking at the whole thing. We expect that the policymakers should take this, into their policy formulation and say, wait a minute, we're going to enter into trouble if we don't find a way to deal with antibiotic resistance. Because what it then means is that ordinary infection, ordinary wound, will be killing human being like it used to do in those days. What it means is that, the germs will be, because again, I'll come to that. Well, maybe I should even mention it now. Those days when I was doing a further degree, postgraduate degree in Uppsala, Sweden, the discussion came, this antimicrobial resistance, and I raised the issue that maybe human beings were taking the wrong attitude to these germs. We feel that we can combat and punch these germs, and the germs responded by saying, okay, you want to punch me, I'm going to mutate. I'm going to mutate. So you kill them for some time, those guys mutate, and then say, oh my God, I'm having trouble with my hand. Is that a concept we're not getting right? Okay. Because again, if you look at the germs in the body, in your mouth, they're doing a lot of wonderful things. In the intestine, they are producing a lot of things. In the genitourinary tract, they are protecting. On the skin, they're doing wonderful work. In the soil, they're doing a lot of things. So the question is that, at what point, what again then, the research point is that what again that made these germs to say that, wait a minute, I'm going to cause disease, I'm going to fight you. Is this something in our climate? Is this how we have used the environment? These are discussions.
I'd like to talk to me as a parent because, we have very little time. Because I have decided as a parent that I'm only on extreme cases. My son has maybe rashes, recurring rashes, and I take him to the hospital and they give me antibiotics. I refuse to use it. I just make sure, as long as his body is not hot or anything like that, I leave him. Eventually, after like 7 days, I wouldn't rub anything on him. I just let nature take its course. Yes. And eventually it goes away. It's hard to see him in pain, but maybe just put some powder or just wash him clean. But some parents actually just take the antibiotics. So my question to you, is that the right approach? Or do we at least give the child some antibiotics at some point?
I think antibiotic prescription and consumption should be defined. You have a dialogue with your with your doctor on this antibiotics, prescription and consumption. Because again, as much as possible, that information you have will empower you to engage the doctor and seek clarification.
It's okay, don't worry, it's okay.
The thing is, the first line of defense against any germ is actually immunity. Okay?
Strong immunity.
Good hygiene, good food, maintain some cleanliness and all those things. That's the first. And then as a parent, that is what should be done first. Look at what they are eating. Look at how you take care of them, their cleanliness and all those, and their environment. That's the first thing. Now, when there's no need for antibiotics, you need to you must be convinced. You must be able to structure how to use these antibiotics, what we need to use it for how long you need to use it, and then to see the sign of failure.
Let me quickly take this call from Shomolu. Good morning, are you there?
Hello.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, ladies.
Morning.
Okay. About this health issue, it's kind of a problem. December, I have a niece. It's actually my sister's daughter. So around December, we found out that ringworm called Lapalapa in Yoruba was actually coming out of her head. So we just tried the bile, and all of a sudden we started buying the antibiotics, frozen. We tried frozen for like over 3 months. It got to a point of view, it stopped. Later on, it just busted again all over her head. But thank God now it's dried off now. But how are we sure this drug is using? Is it safe?
So resistant lapa that refused to go.
Yeah,
So
again.
even though they had used the prescribed drug.
Tell you what, even those skin infections are very stubborn.
Yeah.
Because the skin has 5 layers, you have to use 28 days. Is, there's renewal. You have to use the drug for some of those cream for as long as that number of time. Even beyond that, we know there's a lot of resistance to antifungal cream. Okay, what we still have to go back to the basics of ensuring hygiene, and keeping the child clean. But again, that's it. So what they need to do actually is to check for resistant testing. They bring the germs out and test against, a cocktail of different drugs and say that, okay, this one can kill it, this one cannot kill it. So that you what we call rational use of the drug. It's not that you just apply anything anyhow.
Yeah, Nima.
So I wanted, when you were talking about other ways of looking at this germ thing rather than fighting it, an idea came to mind. Because Ebola broke in Syria alone, but when it broke in Nigeria, we kind of won the war against Ebola here. Is there something in our diet or a way of life that we should continue to replicate? Or, is it possible that in our locality, maybe our diet, because then some people were saying maybe because our diet is largely vegetables and all that, we should look into it. Is there something that we can replicate here?
There's no doubt that if you raise your immune system, your ability to fight unwanted germs will improve. There's no single doubt about that. Okay, and then if you maintain healthiness, cleanliness, because look around us, look at everywhere. I don't care whether you stay in Lekki or whatever, or Banana. It's just a dirty environment everywhere. In that environment, germs will thrive. They will jump from those dust to human being. They will jump to chicken. They will jump to some other rats or whatever, and jump to human being. And when they move from one person to another, one host to another, their state changed. And then we see, this kind of problem.
Please take our final call. Yomi, are you there?
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead, please.
Well, my mom uses antibiotics most because she constantly has malaria. And the doctor once explained to her that this malaria virus or typhoid is inside the heart and the liver. So once you treat it, it gets pumped out again after a while. And so there are particular antibiotics she just uses. Each time she feels it, she just uses it. But now on the show, I've been told that constant use of it or just anyhow use of it is not very, very good. So I'd like you to explain that. When you have it in your system and you just treat it whenever it is, for maybe 2 weeks after you use a particular dose, how do you see that? How do you talk about that? Please shed some light.
Okay.
Again, I don't know the malaria that you have to treat forever. I don't know, because there's a clear-cut...
Is there something about liver in the liver? Oh.
Listen, the drug that you take, this combination therapy, one will act peripherally at the blood level, another one will act at organ level. Okay? And some of them hang in the system for quite a long time. Wow. If you have to take those drugs and you have to repeat, you know that these also have side effects. You are multiplying the side effect, you understand, without necessarily killing the germs. So it gets to a point where you have to ask yourself, am I really treating malaria? Is this malaria resistant? Is the drug I'm using, is it okay? Because the issue of fake drug is a big challenge in this part of the world. So now you can't continually treat malaria or treat typhoid. I don't believe that. There must be something we're missing. There's something we're missing.
Unfortunately, that's all we can take.
We can't remain lazy about
Thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure having you. We have somebody who made mugs for our guests. Anytime they come, they should give them from Ada Small in Agidingbi. Thank you so much. This is your view mug, so that you take coffee and tea. You remember us that you came on our show. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.